Board out, Adam. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session to discuss agenda number 8. This was to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivisions D2 and E2 of Government Code Section 54956.9. In one case, the facts and circumstances justifying the closed session are the potential of additional litigation regarding the master tax sharing agreement currently being litigated in Award Homes, Inc. versus the County of San Benito et al. Filed in the Superior Court of California under case number CU 15-0099, and BMC Promiseway LLC doing business as Benchmark Communities versus the County of San Benito et al. Again, filed in the Superior Court of California for the County of San Benito under case number CU-15-0056. At this time, the board took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. So moving on with our agenda, we'll move to item 31, which is the Resource Management Agency.
Hi there. Good morning. We have items 31 and 32 are semi-related. It all has to do with our fire department and our monthly report and some actions that we want to take to move things forward. On item 31 there, we have a contract with Brown Reynolds Watford Architects for architectural services to prepare the construction documents for the Fire Station Number 3 project. As you know, they were selected through an RFP process last year and have assisted to this point with some designs and cost estimating to help us get to where we are. And we also have a topographical survey that should be ready this week that we can hand over to them. That was a key part that they needed to get going. So if you approve that contract, we can get started, and we're still on track for early next year to have the fire station open. It's kind of hard to pinpoint a month right now, but February, March is still definitely feasible.
Are there any questions from members of the board?
No, I just want to say that they're just a very powerful company. They're going to provide I'm saying it just as a light note, because under their electrical engineering, they're going to have exterior lighting plans. So I thought, well, they can do a lot of stuff. They're pretty powerful.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board? Okay, at this time, I'd like to open it up to members of the public for comments. See none, I'll bring it back for decision.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve per staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Carries 5-0. Moving on to item 32. This is out of the County Administrative Office. Mr. Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have a presentation here, an update from our fire chief, Martin Del Campo, and he's going to give us an update. There was a request by your board to give an update with regards to the reserve firefighter levels, so he's going to go ahead and give that to you today.
Okay, morning, Director and Board. Today's fire chief report consists of calls from April 15th through May 16th. And if you take a look down there, I've got an updated version of it, not by too many calls for service, but if you look at District 1, 2, 3, and 4, you'll see an increase from previous chief reports, especially in the vehicle accident area. I just want to keep note of that because as the population grows, we're going to be experiencing more of those. Odd thing about District 3 in the north end of the county, it is, I'd say about 50% of those vehicle accidents are due to single vehicle accidents because of the rates of speed. And I just wanted to note that out to you. As far as calls for service, you had a total of 322. Two special assignments within the last 6 months, one of them being the Cienega fire. And the only reason you see a dollar price by there is because we deployed resources to that fire for support, and it generated $27,000 that got put back into the general fund to take care of staffing, admin fee, and equipment fee. You see the EPA fire standby. That was to dispose of 12 tons of benite, and it was due to storage of this primer substance for ammunition. And it was a multi-agency participation. You had the Coast Guard, EPA, NOAA, Monterey Bomb Squad, San Benito ESO, Hollister Fire, and several other agencies, to include a public information officer from the EPA to send the message out that this is what we were going to do. And then after they disposed of the benite, exploded it in place, what they did was they did water samples, air samples, and soil samples to make sure that it was brought back to its original restoration of the area. Fire apparatus report.
Mr. Chair, I think, Chief, I think the Monterey Bay Air Resource District
Yes.
was not informed of this.
Oh, is that right?
That's what was reported at one of our meetings, that they were overlooked.
Right, and I can recall that, and I want to say that they were brought into it probably at the 11th hour after KSBW had posted the PSA and the word went out. I was surprised that the EPA might have overlooked that, but there was so many moving parts at that time. I could see something get missed. Unfortunately, it was them. Any other questions pertaining to that?
No.
Okay, in the fire apparatus, if you look at the alphanumeric that I have there, the E represents the engine, and the T represents the truck, the R represents a rescue. If you look at Engine 32, Engine 32 is out of service at this time. It's experiencing pump problems. So for its design and its fabrication to operate, you got to have a pump. It'll get you to the fire, but it won't pump the fire. The valuation of Engine 32, which was a county bought piece of equipment, is in and around $24,000 if we had to blue book it. The repairs for it is $17,000. We're going to recommend that this get taken care of because it's going to buy us a few more years of Engine 32 use, which is a Type 3. Type 3 engine is a kind of engine that will go off-road, and it'll negotiate the rough terrain that we have out in the county. So with high valuation areas like the Comstock Estates, Stonegate, areas that you have to get in and around in high angle and traverse terrain, you need a vehicle like that to negotiate that terrain and for our firefighters to fight fire. Engine 17 is out of service at this time. It's gotten to the point where it's served its purpose and it's time to let go. What we try to do is we try to put a quantitative valuation on how much the apparatus is worth, what it's done for the department, and how much it's going to cost to keep it running. So as a national standard, a Type 1 fire engine will cost $15 a mile. So every mile it rolls, it costs $15 when it's in its most optimum used phase. If they're old, like 17 is, it's probably going to cost $30 to $40 a mile, and it's ineffective at that time. It costs more money to keep it on the road than it's actually worth. Okay, we don't get rid of it yet because of the gallons per minute that it generates. It helps provide a level of numbers for the ISO rating to take notice of, and it helps drive that ISO rating down, which is important for all the business owners here. The lower the ISO rating, the lower the premium for your insurance. So we want to be able to maintain those numbers. Rescue 64, that's San Juan Bautista purchased a piece of equipment. We're making a recommendation, and they're listening to us about turning it into a skid-mounted pump with firefighting capabilities. That's a huge transformation right there, and we're talking about a proposal for that. Hollister Fire Department is working on an arrangement right now with multiple jurisdictions in the event that we're so far into our reserve apparatus fleet that I might need to call back or call for some aid as far as an engine from Watsonville or maybe an engine from Gilroy or Salinas with an apparatus driver to provide us some technical expertise on their piece of equipment. And after maybe a day or two of training, they can leave that piece of equipment with us and we can send that firefighter home until we could get one of our apparatus up and running. I'm making these arrangements right now because before the big event happens, before any of our apparatus completely go out and we're unable to service an area due to the lack of the fleet, I want to have that awkward conversation now before it happens, and then I have to play catch up. So I want to utilize all the jurisdictions around us in order to have depth in support from the other local government agencies. Strength management, currently we're at 2 chief officers, 3 battalion chiefs, 11 fire captains, 9 fire engineers, 17 firefighters, and as of staff right now, we have 9 reserve firefighters. This is a considerable drop as opposed to the chief's report of October 2015. I had 23. I had 23 of these folks providing support and service as reserve firefighters, and 14 have dropped out due to various reasons. Some of those reasons being their commitment to their primary job, this being a secondary one, and it being a sacrifice to them. They had to make a decision on whether or not they can keep up with the mandated standard training, the sleepovers, and the callbacks, the percentage of callbacks. Recruiting efforts are ongoing. And currently we have a new academy starting in and around the beginning of June. So as soon as we receive the turnouts that we had just ordered I'd say about 30 days ago, it takes about 30 days for turnouts, their personal protective equipment to get fabricated. As soon as that's received, we're going to start that academy. They've already gone through their background, their physicals. They've already gotten their orientation, their list of instructions as far as what's expected of them on their first day at the fire academy. And all we need is that equipment to come in, and then we're going to hold court and have these guys standing in formation awaiting for their assignments. We've got a quality assurance boards of new firefighters completed. So every firefighter that's on staff right now has met the minimum standard as a firefighter. The next 6 months is for them to get their driver operator. So every firefighter in our department is not only a firefighter 1, but they have their driver's license to become engineers also, and they can work out of class, which in turn saves us money in overtime. And it gives us multiple use of these individuals to work different pieces of apparatus at any time.
Hey,
we have
Chief,
the
we have one
captain's test.
question. We have one question.
Yeah, I have one.
Patello.
Maybe 2 questions.
Yes.
First, an easy one. How many applicants do you have for the reserve program?
Currently, I've got 15 recruits that are in the chute right now, ready to get stood up and get their training, and we have, I'd say about maybe 20 applications sitting on the desk right now, so we could do another oral board, and then
You're bring the 15 and then whatever works out of the 20
Yes.
and do one class.
yes.
Hopefully, it's be about 30 guys.
Well, no, what we're going to do is we're going to do 15 right off the bat, and then as soon as that's done, we'll have probably about a 1-month administrative break so we can document all of their training, assign them to their shifts, and then get them scheduled for the fire season. After that 1-month administrative break has terminated, we're going to start the next phase of hiring. I want to do at least 2 academies a year, because at this rate, and as much as we're losing them right now, that would be the only course of action that we could do to keep up with the demand.
Supervisor Munzer and I, after our committee meeting at the first Thursday of the month, we report back to the full board. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I expressed was a deep concern about the staffing levels. We've got quite a few firefighters due to the safer
grant.
Right.
So that makes me feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a concern about the condition of our equipment and replacement, working with, how that's pan out going forward. But can you describe your policy? And it is your policy, I know that, as far as, strike team, involvement,
Right.
with the staff that we have and the equipment in the condition that it is, do you have a policy as far as our participation in strike teams? And I understand in order to get help, you got to give help.
Yes.
But have you thought about that? Because I didn't envision 9 reserve firefighters.
Right.
And
to be clear about the 9, those are the 9 who have gone through the basic training, but they're not. I'd say about 5 of them are not EMTs, so they can provide medical service under Title 22 of California Health and Safety Code, and some of them don't have the Firefighter 1. You need about a year to get your Firefighter 1. So in order to work on a piece of apparatus for this local government jurisdiction, you got to have Firefighter 1 and you have to have EMTB and a driver's license. So only as it stands right now, we just got our 5th one who is completely up to par and can do the minimum standard. The other 4 are still waiting on some of the education that they need or the time that they need in training to get their certificates in hand. As far as the strike team component is concerned, the last strike team the last deployment that they were deployed on was the Cienega Fire as a single resource, meaning that the state requested support with the water tender, and we were able to provide it up to their standard. And their standard was type 1 water tender with 2O staffing. So they needed an engineer and a firefighter because they needed to be able to rotate that workforce. I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, it was 2 engineers. I'm sorry, excuse me. It was, instead of a firefighter and an engineer, it was 2 engineers. So in order for it to be a 24-hour operation, they needed 2 people to rotate in and out. Well, the state has a recommendation, and now it's becoming a standard that you have to pass red card qualifications. And what the red card consists of is that you're a firefighter in a department with a Firefighter 1 certificate, that you've had wildland training, that you understand the safety hazards pertaining to wildland firefighting. You have to have a certain level of training hours reoccurrent throughout the year, and you have to have a physical agility test conducted on you that indicates that you can work on the line under arduous labor without, dropping dead on scene, to say, to make it the worst case scenario. There's different levels. So like in my level, in the administration level, I could work moderate. Some battalion chiefs can work, or I can work light. Battalion chiefs can work moderate, but the firefighter on the ground has to be arduous.
Yeah,
labor.
well, I think you're missing my question, Chief. The concern I have is committing one of our engines and our staffing out of the county,
Right.
For a week or a week and a half on a strike team on a fire down in Los Angeles.
Right.
Is that something that we're be doing this summer due to the level of our staffing?
No, I've got to say no. And I've talked to the unit chief, Chief Blue of BEU, Cal Fire, and I let him know at the beginning of, or even before the beginning of the fire season, that I've got 2 challenges. One of them is staffing and the lack thereof, and the other one is the lack of depth in our equipment. And the reason for that is we've got an aged fleet, and I've got the potential of losing 12 firefighters. I've already addressed this with the city council, and I explained to them that in order for us to successfully meet the demands of the contracts, because we were under 3 contracts plus the city's MOU, or the firefighters' MOU, and the coverage that we have in the city, I have to have a minimum of 10 firefighters on staff every day. And if I lose 12 firefighters, that's an entire shift, an entire 12 people on C shift that's going to go away. I'll have another 24 left at best, and I'll be calling 4 firefighters back on overtime on a regular basis. They're aware of that. We're coming up with a course of action, but as it stands right now, it's a lot more fiscally responsible if we would call them back on overtime as opposed to absorb the roll-up cost of an initial firefighter coming on duty as opposed to having FEMA grants support them.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's what I did the math too, and I was hoping that was the answer.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions pertaining to that? Strike teams.
Any other questions from members of the board?
In general, from the chief, I would like to get a map at a future presentation of the county with an overlay of the districts. I know the districts are different than the supervisorial districts.
Sure.
But I'd like to see that. I'd like to see where those things are occurring.
Okay.
So, future.
So you'd like to have a map of where the incidents are occurring. We could probably design something that has
No,
mainly,
you don't have to go to that detail.
Okay.
Just, this is wonderful that you gave us this of where the accidents and hazmat responses are going. I just want to see where those districts that you're referring to here
Oh,
are.
okay.
So that's all.
Absolutely. Will do. We can do that.
And we have that on the wall of training right now.
Right. Oh, okay. Good. Good. We'll replicate that and put it in digital. We'll put it in digital form and then email it to you guys so you can
Perfect.
study it
Yeah.
That works.
on there.
Thank you.
As far as continuing with the chief's report, I don't have much more other than we have under the career development. I have a EMT basic course that's going out. It's a 20-week course focused on law enforcement. So the sheriff's office and the police department are going to be attending it. So you're going to have not only police officers out there, but they're going to be police officers with the capability of being EMTs. And for us, that's important because it stops the clock on brain death. So if there's a vehicle accident or if they get called out to somebody's house and the person's unresponsive, a police officer who can get there a lot faster than an entire fire engine will be able to start CPR and be able to provide frontline stabilization until we get there and provide more definitive care. I think that's a great idea, and I applaud law enforcement for allowing to do that. So the fire marshal's report. The fire marshal has conducted 46 inspections at approximately 52.25 man hours or staff hours through all of the current developments. He's been doing San Juan Oaks, Del Webb layout for hydrants, which is important to us. Tentative improvements on the eastbound area for the alarm systems. And then also he's undergoing 26 plans right now as of this date throughout the calendar year, not the fiscal year. And also we have I don't know if you guys seen the public safety announcement for fireworks. The 4 departments, actually the 5 departments got together, San Benito County Sheriff's Office, Police Department, Hollister Fire Department, and Probation. So four agencies. Oh, I'm sorry. And then AMR and then CalSTAR all got together, made a video to inform the local community about the dangers of illegal fireworks, safe and sane fireworks, and then illegal weapons discharges. That came out on Instagram. Chief Westrick was in charge of sending a message out, and I have flyers for you guys for your observation. And what we're doing is I'm sending firefighters from Station 1 on every Wednesday until 4th of July handing out these flyers. Right now they're in English, but we're going to have them translated in Spanish, so we have both demographics here in this community. It's important for them to understand what's going on. And at that point, nobody is surprised when they get a $2,000 to $5,000 fine for multiple violations. So this is our attempt to make it a safe holiday season for 4th of July. And I think I got, this is going up in the hall. I asked for permission to post this. And this is one of the works from Chief Westrick from WeTip. And it takes care of some of the notification to the public that, we're making an attempt to make it a safe and sane 4th of July season. moving on past the fire marshal's report, or I have future operations is another component that I'm going to be administering into the chief's report, and it's going to consist of call volume trend, exactly what you asked for, Supervisor Barrios, about where the density of the calls are according to the population, what kind of calls they are. I was going to do it in a word form, but a map is going to work also. I think the picture might provide a little bit more insight. Community growth, target hazards, housing developments, and standards of cover. So where the developments grow the biggest and the largest and the fastest, we're going to start addressing our concerns and the vulnerability to the community in that area. Needs assessment, so facilities, equipment, and staffing levels, and the way ahead from here on out. So your next chief report is going to have that additional component so we can further plan out. And that concludes my chief's report at this time, pending your questions.
Thank you, Chief. At this time, do we have any questions? See none?
Comment. Thank you for the comprehensive report.
Excellent
Very
report.
good.
Right.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Very comprehensive.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, so at this time, we will go ahead and break for lunch and return at
Mr.
1:30.
Yeah, public comment. Public comment.
Oh, do we need the public comment? Yeah. Okay, so at this time, I'll open up to public comment. No speaker cards? Okay. This time, we'll go ahead and recess for break and for lunch, and we'll be back at 1:30.